All right. Hey there. Welcome to Beauty and the Pom podcast. I'm Kiani Mills.
And I'm Andy Reid.
Two friends who have a very similar set of values, but who have taken very different life paths to end up in similar situations.
We are also business owners, parents, property enthusiasts, and bloody short on time. So we bring you this podcast to shine a light on humanising business.
Because look, let's face it, business is life, and life is business.
Now then, campers, welcome back to the Beauty and the Pom. It's Andy here with Kiani. How are you going?
Not bad. It's been I feel like we're on a roll, Andy.
We are on a roll.
I'm quite happy with how this is coming along so far.
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. Hey, look, gang, now I know that you're listening to this a week later, but it's literally been about half an hour because we decided to get a whole bunch of these blocked out while I had Kiani's undivided attention, the jet setter that she is. So, Kiani, how are you going out of 10? And let's ask the question, how did you feel the last episode was out of 10?
Good question. And yeah, put me on the spot. But
big time.
I love our chemistry and we've got a great habit of going off on a tangent. So I hope that the message we were trying to portray was put across. But my favourite thing about the last episode, and as we did allude to, it wasn't overly planned, but we did naturally bring it back around to the very, very start of the episode. So I feel for me that's got to be at least a 9.5 out of 10. I think we're killing it.
I think she's bragging a little bit, but I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll be guilty by association. I'll be happily to take a 9.5 out of 10.
What would you give it?
Me? I reckon we can do better.
Of course we can.
I reckon definitely. I think definitely there's someone that is more interested in what she's having for dinner a little bit later on tonight because she keeps banging on about these Asian restaurants near where she's staying at.
I know. The Melbourne CBD has got an array of delicious food.
Yes. So before she starts salivating all over the podcast studio, Kiani, this episode is going to be around being a business owner.
Yes.
All right.
Which we both are. So
we are.
It's kind of close to home.
It is. Now, before I ask you, a bit more in depth into your journey as a business owner, tell me first off, why did you make the decision to dive into this pool of being a business owner?
Oof, that's a good question. I'd like to say that it was because it was my lifelong journey and it was my passion.
But that's bullshit.
That's bullshit. Yeah, absolute bullshit. It was more of a sense of I fell into it and learnt the hard way, but realised that funnily enough, the word independence comes back again. Having kids at a very young age and working in a law firm, it was pretty evident pretty quick that they didn't support single parents who had to run around after children and hopefully get to an assembly every now and again or potentially work part-time. And I happened to have a fantastic network of people around me and it almost became a non-negotiable because I had to find a way to support my two kids, be able to do drop-off and pick up. Especially when Kobe went to school. Daycare was great. You could drop him off at 6:30 in the morning and pick him up at 6:30 at night. So, mate, happily, yes, I miss my children, but work was life and that was my happy place. So I was okay with those parameters. But starting my own business went, well, crap, what can I do that gives me the flexibility? What if my kid's sick? What do I do? What skills do I have? I had the love and passion for law. I saw an opportunity to get my conveyancing license. And while it was never easy and owning a business sucks, straight up, I won't sugarcoat it.
You're selling it, Kiani. You're really selling it.
I'm sorry. But the payoff for me was being able to be there with my kids. So while I worked my ass off and didn't sleep very much, and if you ask my kids how much time I've spent with them over the last 8 years, they might beg to differ. But it was more of finding that balance for me and not being, they talk about, being beaten down by the man. big businessman.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty shitty answer, but effectively I tripped over my feet and landed
In
on
business
both of
ownership.
them. So, yeah.
Now-
What about you? Tell me you.
Look, for me, I needed to. For me, it was because I was following something that I really loved. That was it. Coming out of that conformity phase of being on the conveyor belt, I think that's something that really helped me to snap one of those barriers. It's interesting that you say, you know, we wanted more independence, yet I think I've seen this on a couple of little memes and whatnot, where you leave a 9-to-5 job to work 24/7. And that's probably one of the reasons as to why it's a massive pain in the arse being a business owner.
Yeah.
It really is.
There's no work hours.
No.
The clock doesn't stop at 5. The phone doesn't stop ringing at 5.
100%.
Until you put in boundaries.
And look, this is what I want to dig into, right? Because, you know, in order to stop us from going completely nuts and losing relationships, and that's whether it's with significant others or kids or whoever.
Friends, family.
Friends, yeah. There's shit that needs to get put in place.
Yeah.
And because it's so easy for us to become obsessed with it, because like we've mentioned before, it's kind of like having another kid. And you can obsess over that kid.
Yep.
You really, really can. What, in terms of, you mentioned about setting boundaries, right? I personally feel that you are really quite good at this, just off my observation. You might not feel that, but someone who can manage to get themselves some MT, as my mates refer to it, it's me time, in a sea of chaos and kids and business and jet setting and all the rest of it. You must have some pretty strong boundaries.
Look, it took time, and they definitely haven't always been there. But I think the biggest thing for me came, again, through my business performance consultants, forcing my mindset shift to get out of the victim of being a solopreneur or a sole business owner to living that CEO mindset of, if you understand your value and you value your time, so should others. And that was the shift.
Massive. I've been preaching this big time. If you understand how much you're worth per hour,
Correct.
you'll soon stop pissing your time up the wall.
And even little things, like I remember when I first started the business and we would have settlements in the city, I would drop them in. I'd drop the settlement packets in, we'd go into our settlements in person. It would take a day sometimes, and this is, you know, we're working back in paper days. We had bank checks and paper transfers and things like that, because my brain couldn't see the justification in paying a settlement agent, because I'm like, no, but that money is ours and it's a waste of money. Why don't I just use my time that is free to go and do these settlements? Until my mind was shifted to go, hold on a second, what is your time worth per hour? And once you've got that hour amount, the cost of a settlement agent is nothing.
Yep.
Because you can't get that time back.
100%.
And you can't be in two places at once. And we just learnt. Andy was trying to send a text message before while I was having a conversation with him. Couldn't do two things at once.
Well, look. Yes, I did start texting that I was going to the bathroom, because that's exactly what Kiani mentioned to me. And there's a little bit of a manism in there as well. Let's not lie. But it's interesting, and when it comes to those boundaries, how have you managed to articulate those boundaries to those relationships that you hold real dear? Because I think it's one thing to set boundaries, but the people around you need to understand those boundaries and understand why those boundaries need to be in place. Because so many arguments can be had with you saying, I have to get this done, and the other side of that conversation doesn't understand why.
Yeah. And communication is 80% of the life that we live. The reality of, as our values and our beliefs and our boundaries change over time, it's also our job to educate the people around us as we are changing. It's not fair to walk into a room and go, okay, guys, right from now, you cannot call me, you cannot speak to me. I'm setting a boundary and you are on the other side of the fence. Especially if we've got staff.
Oh.
You can't do that.
And how many times do you see that in an office, or where or a business coach of some description says, right, you're gonna have to set your boundaries by putting a do not open this door sign because I'm busy and da 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 da. That's not the way to play, right? It's not the way to set up a relationship.
It's one way to put someone off.
100%.
I think, as I said, communication's super important. So it's an education process, as if we were educating a client on what the transaction is, or what the journey is, or what we do for them. You get a new client call and they go, I'm inquiring about your services. You go, great, this is the journey I'm going to take you on, and this is how I'm going to help you, and this is how we're going to get there. It's a very similar conversation that can have be loved ones, friends, family, staff, because as we evolve, businesses evolve, relationships evolve, sometimes, unfortunately, there will be people that will fall off as a result of that.
Yep.
And that's okay. It is really okay to say we're on different paths. These are the boundaries that I'm going to need to put into place over time. Are you okay with that? And in a work setting, sometimes staff don't have the choice of being okay with that. But if you're able to communicate it in a way that it is for the bigger picture, and my team, over time, it started with just me. And everyone wanted just me. Clients, no, I want Kiani. That's it. It's KLM. I want Kiani. Over time to now, we are Imperial, and the staff have their own standpoint in Imperial. The me doesn't matter so much, but that's because we've educated the clients along the way. And it doesn't happen overnight. And some people revert. Referral partners are a really big one for us. We educate them on how to introduce a client to us, so that before they've even spoken to us, they already know what they're going to expect and what they're going to experience, because people don't like surprises.
Nope.
So the short answer is there is no short way of doing it. It's a journey, it's a process, it's a communication piece. But I'm sure over time as well, I guess from you transitioning from being an employee to being a business owner, how did you find the shift in because your identity surely would have had to change through that time. How did you navigate through the transition of being an employee to being a business owner?
I think it started a lot earlier than that. And I think one of the reasons why I ultimately made that decision to go and spread my wings is because I was becoming more of who I was through that process. And via that process, I understood, I need to do my thing. I need to do my thing. And I think one of the reasons as to why, one of the main reasons, because my employer at that time was my father-in-law.
Yeah, right.
So there was a couple of different dynamics at play here, right? Where it got to the stage where I wasn't shortchanging because I was starting my auctioneering business part-time while I was still working full-time at my father-in-law's gig. And I put the pressure on myself, like I'm not shortchanging him. In order for him to not have a problem, I need to make sure that there's runs on the board, right? And the irony was, like at one point, I went ballistic because of the fact that I was under that much time pressure. I was like, I can't afford to fuck about here. Putting time limits on listing presentations with vendors, and I was doing it because I felt I needed to in order to fit everything in. And the ridiculous volume of positive byproducts that came off the back of that was insane. Yeah. Like the amount of parents that just thought it was incredible because of the fact that I wasn't going to drag out their time and completely car crash into dinner and wreck their family dynamic by sitting there for 2 hours talking on like a flog, right?
Yep.
And I had a purpose to my time.
And it's respectful. It's a mutual respect.
It's massive. And the thing is, when you talk about understanding the value of your time, if you can learn, gang, to articulate that as a business owner in a way that is respectful to those people that you're talking to, but also allows them to respect you, then my God, are you going to end up on a much more even footing with your customers, with your staff, with whoever it is that you're engaging with, right? That was huge for me.
Yeah.
I only did it because I was like, fuck, I have to do it.
Yeah.
I've got no choice. I have like 5-6 listing presentations in a day or something. I've only got 45 minutes per person.
Yeah, the day only goes from 9 to 5.
So I had to spread my wings because I was really, and I was still very much, I could get all altruistic and and say that we're always on a journey in terms of discovering who we are. But I was very much in my infancy of discovering who I was, genuinely, and getting off that conveyor belt. And it just felt like a natural step. And it helped that it was auctioneering, and it was my place of flow. And I knew that however bad the rest of the week was, once it was on, and I was happy, and the world was calm. Right? It's odd. I go to do an auction, and in my head, I've just got a nice calm sunset on a beach. Right?
Yeah. Wow. I don't think the people that are attending that auction have the same visuals, but
no. But yeah. So that for me was what that was all about. Was really discovering who I was and following it.
Yeah. Right.
And following it, and thankfully being able to articulate that to the people that were close to me so that they understood that it was important to me, therefore they're cool with it.
Yeah. And that's you setting boundaries.
Yeah. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
So so that part was huge. Now, other things that I wanted to really dig in with you, because you're going through a bit of a brand change, right? So we've got your launch coming up,
yes.
Which is cool. It's exciting. And you mentioned it, you alluded to it briefly before. You went from KLM to Imperial. Now, when it comes to a lot of business owners, right, a lot of them tend to really, really struggle to stay true to one message, because whenever there's an opportunity to make money and you're a business owner, you're always tempted to just start and be a jack of all trades instead of a master of none, right?
It is called the shiny object syndrome.
Oh, massive.
And we all suffer from it because there is an opportunity in everything.
Yes. Now, you've obviously expanded your empire and you're going great guns and all that, which is incredible. But when it came to making sure that the message was still true to what it is that you wanted to achieve, to how you started, why you started, going from KLM, which is a very personal brand, what does the L stand for?
My middle name.
Which is?
Laurel.
What's right?
It's terrible. And you know a funny story about that?
Yeah.
My mother, bless you if you're listening, that's her middle name. And she didn't give it to me because it was a beautiful middle name and she wanted to pass it down through the family. She gave it to me because she hated it and she didn't want to be the only one to have to suffer with a middle name, Laurel.
Brilliant. Good on you, Mum.
Good on you, Mum. I say, see, learning the hard stuff from a very young age makes you very resilient.
Yeah, so if you're planning on helping your kids, just give them a really shitty middle name. It's like Flick's middle name's Carmel.
Carmel.
Yeah, interesting. What is it with you lot needing really old?
Oh, do you know what? I think it is the whole pass on the name. I don't know where my mum's mum got it from. Maybe I should ask her. But I know that when I was choosing my kids' middle names, it was how do we introduce other family members? So like my nana's name, bless her, again, Dorothy. Right. I'm probably not going to call my daughter Summer
I was about to say,
Dorothy.
Her middle name's not Dorothy,
No, it's Ivy.
Right.
Which I wanted to call her Ivy, but her dad was very adamant that Ivy was a stripper name. So she didn't get the first name, Ivy. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was too bad, but anyway, middle name Ivy. And then Kobe got William, which is his dad's name's Liam. So Liam is an abbreviation of William. So that was quite standard. But when we went through all the females in our family, all of our females generationally didn't have the most modern,
salubrious kind of names.
That's right. So I think that's why we end up with the old school ones, because we're trying to be kind to our past generation.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have jumped off traffic.
We have totally. So, how are you going to keep your message consistent? Because for a lot of business owners, when they, like I said, when they do go into business and they see the shiny object, and I've done it in the past, and I'm doing my best to simplify it all down. But how are you going to stay true to your message?
Yeah, good question. And you're right. We do. And I've deviated. I've had these great plans and I've spent so much time on them and gone, oh, should have just put all of that time and energy into my core business. For me, the transition was an evolutionary transition. The business offering has never changed and will never change. But what I realised is that we were bigger than just conveyancing. The experience that we have in the office, the service that we're providing, it's more than just conveyancing. So I became resentful of the word conveyancing.
Right.
So then when I branched out to the buyer's advocacy business, that wasn't a a whim. It was how do I better serve my clients in our core, which is conveyancing? And in my opinion, I wouldn't buy a property without a buyer's advocate because that is not my area of expertise. And like business, I bring people in for the areas that are not my expertise. So such as life, I went, what do my clients need? They need a buyer's advocate. Great. They need potentially, if things turn pear-shaped or if they're doing a major development, they might need a lawyer. So future plans for me is to add on property law. And in order to stay true to the core messaging, it's about the client. What do they need? You know, I'm not going to go and add on a jewelry store because I like jewelry, because how the hell is that going to help my client in their property journey? So the messaging for me will always make sense as long as I am in that service of buying or selling property and stuck around that journey.
Now, interestingly, you mentioned you're not going to open a jewelry store and whatnot, and that kind of segues into the next bit of business ownership, which I think we both really do agree on, which is making sure that you know what you're good at.
Yes,
and then making sure that you know what you're not good at. I think it was just before COVID. Yeah, it was not long before COVID, and I decided to start a marketing division in Sold By, right? And because I knew what I was talking about, and I knew all that, and I had a decent enough network to be able to outsource the things like making of a website and all that sort of stuff. I very quickly discovered that although I can make money from it, fuck me, it's boring. All right? I really discovered that, you know, going through website changes and all that sort of stuff was boring / really, really frustrating.
It's tedious.
Really frustrating because it's, you know, we're having to rely on other people's brains looking at it and going, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, or I like that more now, blah, 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 blah. And my patience was super thin with it, like really, really thin. But I thought I could make money.
Good on you for trying to diversify, though.
Yes.
A for effort.
Yes. But how do you come to terms with the things that you're good at and you're not good at? So you say that you didn't know how to, you brought on a buyer advocate as part of the advocacy business because you saw a need for the consumer. So your process around that, right? So, and this is when it comes to small business owners, we've got to be super careful what we decide to take on and not take on, because one client that could like promise you the world might end up costing you 6, 7, 8 clients
100%.
of bread and butter that can then lead to way more business down the track. It's being true to yourself now so that you win more down the track. How do you have a bit of like an internal process now, you think, when you think about it with respect to identifying whether you can do something or not do something?
I guess from acquiring business services, there's a bit of a different process mentally that goes into internal business, because I think the conversation on a micro level comes into even the tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis in our businesses. So I know that when I started my very first business, I'm terrible at bookkeeping. So I'm going to pay a bookkeeper. I would not know the first thing about IT, so I'm going to get an IT guy. I remember when I opened my first office, I became an electrician, a plumber. I was putting together IKEA packages. I was painting walls. Like, you name it, I was doing it. And as a business owner, we feel as though we've got to do it all and we've got to take on it all because it's our business. As you said, it's our baby. We've got to take on that stress. But I think the biggest thing about our ego is our ego will tell us that we can do everything. The challenge is to question that and say, could someone else do it better? And if the answer is yes, then that's where we really consider, obviously we have a business plan and we have milestones and those kinds of things, but when we are capable, we get that better person in to do the job at a better level, because again, our time is valuable. We need to respect our time. So it's very similar with adding on extra services for business, even though it would be fantastic for the consumer or for the business identity. Is it a necessity right now? Do you have the time and capacity to be able to do it? Can your current core business afford for your eye to be on another pie while it's still running? Is it capable of running without you? There's a lot of questions that come into play, and the reality is you can't do it on your own. So Are you going to bring in a business partner? Are they going to be a shareholder, a director? Like, what's that going to look like? And are they then capable of running that business themselves, knowing that you've got one foot in one pie, one foot in another pie? So it's a very big consideration, but I really do truly believe that when you find the right offering with the right person under the right model, it's almost, in my experience, successful.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good way of bringing it together. But what if that pie's looking real nice and tasty and shiny and because look, the challenge with that is that you could end up being too conservative, right?
True.
And a lot of what we want to do is risk, right? The greater rewards come with a greater risk. Yeah. So have you ever had a time where you've taken a risk and it's gone tits up?
I would probably say that with every good decision comes 3 bad decisions.
Right.
And I mean, varying in severity and how far you actually let them go. But everything seems like a good idea first off.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
I'm quite lucky that I have an analytical brain. Like, my brain will need to process the shit out of everything, not from a point of making me hesitate all the time, but it's more of a, can I live with the worst case scenario? So my brain will go, okay, what if this happens, then this will happen, then this will happen, then this. It's like a movie, right? If I can get to the end of that movie and I know in my heart of hearts, in my self-belief, that I'm okay with the worst case scenario, then I'm like, right, go forth.
See, I'm the opposite.
Yeah? Tell me.
Fuck it.
Do it anyway.
Yeah.
I love that.
For me, I can't do that. I can't do that because if something excites me, if something, lights that fire, I'm fucking doing it in one way, shape or form.
I love that.
And I'm going to go windmilling in.
Yeah.
And I'll look to either learn on the job, or I refuse to say the whole fake it till I make it, because I understand, I know what I need to give up or give out or anything. But for me, I go bollocks to it. I'm going to give it a crack. How can I make sure that it doesn't fail?
Awesome. And what has been the biggest lesson that you have taken away from a failure?
There's always going to be more money. There's always going to be more money to be made, right? If you're a business owner, if you're giving business ownership a crack, it means that you have some shred of inner belief that you can make money.
Yeah.
Right? That you can provide a lifestyle for yourself and those around you based on your skill set and who you are and what you're about and all the rest of it. I personally feel that anybody that takes on, look, for some people, business ownership ain't for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And we can't be a hero, right? There's no point, going down the wrong path. If it's the wrong path, stop and turn the fuck around.
Yeah.
Right?
There's no such thing as failure. Failure is giving up. But if you stop, acknowledge it's not right, that's a very different kettle of fish.
100%. Because as long as you keep on moving, right,
Correct.
then you'll be okay. And that's kind of what I just kind of think bollocks to it, right?
Yeah.
I know that if I lose some money,
I'll make more.
I'll make more.
Yeah. Time and money, they don't exist.
I reckon time, because it is finite, I think perhaps the only filter that I have now, and this has taken some time to get to, is, am I going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
With my time. Am I going to, whether I win or learn, am I going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
Right?
And as you know, when you become a parent, time is precious. They grow up so fast. We're already in bloody halfway through 2022.
I don't think I've appreciated that enough.
Yeah. I don't think I did at the start either. Now I kind of savor every moment, but you've still got time. Yours a little. Yeah,
true. But I think for business owners, that for me is the only filter. Now, whether I've got business coaches shitting themselves and panicking and going, you're going to make people lose a load of money, you're a dick. Fair. Okay, fair enough. But, there's plenty of decisions that I could have made that would have perhaps made me more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, fuck me, I'd have been miserable.
I agree. And to be able to get to that point, to be able to think about diversifying, making more money, opportunities, things like that, I feel as though you've first got to implement a couple of things into your core business to, as I spoke about in episode 1, to give you some space because you need to have space to be able to come up. Creativity needs space. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to share with you 2 of my kind of life-altering tips. While they're quite tiny, in my mind, when my balloon was full and I had no capacity as a business owner, as a parent, I was working, typing emails until midnight and then up at 4 a.m. again, and then kids and life and all that kind of stuff. The 2 things that really helped me get some space and get some time in the business world, number 1 was blocking my calendar.
Right.
I used to use my calendar for meetings and appointments, but instead I went, right, okay, first thing in the morning I need to do my emails. So I put an hour for my emails. Then I would block my time and say, right, I'm only going to return phone calls through this time or make phone calls through this time that are off the back of the emails that I've just reviewed. Then I would have file work time and time in the office. And then from my day for the afternoon, it would depend on whether I was doing settlements, contract reviews, whatever my day looked like. But blocking my time meant that I could, without guilt, put my phone upside down and answer emails and be present in those emails and get it done. And then pick up the phone knowing that I've got an hour to sit here or whatever time frame I gave myself to respond to those calls present. Because how many times have we as business owners been on the phone call to a client while sending an email to another? We spoke about respect earlier. That is not respectful. That is not respectful, and they will hear it. And that will come across, be impeccable with your word. I promised that I would, not outwardly to a client, but in my mind it was treat every client as if they are your only client. And I can't do that when I'm on the phone to one typing an email to the other. So blocking my time in my calendar, not only for myself, but for my team, so they could see what I was doing, that created a whole nother world of visibility for me. So that was absolutely critical. And then the other one, through blocking my time, there are always conversations with staff that need to happen right now. There are also other conversations that can happen later. And when you work in an office environment, the just a minutes come up all the time. Hey, Kiani, just a minute. Andy, can I just ask you a really quick question? 15 minutes later, you've lost 15 minutes of your time. So we implemented this process in our office where I'd have 2 blocks of time in the day for just a minutes. And the incredible thing, after trialing that for a couple of weeks, was that most of the just a minutes, they could actually solve themselves. They were just looking for validation. So in actual fact, while it was, giving me some time back, it was giving them confidence in themselves. So as a business owner, that's something that you try and instill and mentor and lead. That simple task of them being aware and me being aware. If it's urgent, tap me on the shoulder anytime, 100%. But if it is just, I want to sense check this, or I'm just not sure about this, or whatever it might be, by the time it got to the time slot for the just a minutes, they're like, oh, I've already figured it out. It's already done.
Amazing.
So it wasn't only beneficial for me, it was beneficial for them. So as a business owner, if you are feeling as though you are short on time, those 2 little things really have helped revolutionize my time in the day and encourage the staff to take some of the stuff, encourage them to be confident in their own abilities because they know more than they think they do.
And it's so hard for us to let go, right? It's our baby.
Yeah.
It's our baby. It's so damn hard to let go. But at some stage or another, gang, you got to take yourself out of that victim mentality. And I love what you said before about taking yourself out of that victim mentality of being a solopreneur and the world's against me, it's me against the world sort of thing. And actually giving yourself a mindset. Because whenever any sort of strategies like that get mentioned, I know a lot of people are going to be going, that sounds a bit wanky. I don't really know if that's for me. Tradies, for example, your plumbers, your sparkies and your chippies and them. For those guys, time blocking is ridiculously, insanely important, right?
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, they kind of feel, nah, that's not really for me. I'm only a one man band or whatever. I don't need that. I'm not serious enough. Ultimately, gang, if your business is the main income for your life, you need to take it this seriously.
Yep.
You can't fuck about Because if you just treat it as a hobby or a pastime, or if you have that sort of pastime mentality, which is what I had for a while there, because fuck, I'm just shouting at people until they give me money. What the fuck? Where's the work in this? Then you're going to end up not treating yourself and taking yourself as seriously as what you should. I got to be straight. That's another one of my big Achilles heels, that I don't take myself, partly because I'm cool with it, right? But I don't take myself anywhere near as seriously as what I should. You know, I don't value my time as seriously as I should. Partly because I think, fuck, if I can help someone for 5-10 minutes, I'm sweet with that, right? I'll move fluidly with my day. But I know for a fact that that's causing me time with my loved ones and so on and so forth. And meaning that I'm going to have to do my gym workout at 1 a.m. And it's not sustainable, right?
No.
It's not sustainable. So gang, if you, and the last thing I wanted to mention when it came to business ownership is understanding the plates that we've got to spin. You know, your business is only one plate.
Yes.
In your life. You got a kid's plate sometimes. You got relationship plate. You've got, you've got
family,
lifestyle plate. You've got your own personal well-being plate.
So I say, don't forget to have a bloody life as well.
Oh, big time.
Get a hobby.
And that's where I was heading with it, is understand that it is only one plate in the context of your life. If you spend too much time focusing on that one plate, there's going to be one or two others that will smash.
Yes, correct.
And that's not cool. And talking as someone who's got the t-shirt on that shit, just make sure, gang, that you just give yourself every so often, you're going to have to take half a step back so you can get all the plates in view, so you know which ones are about to fall, and you can get them sorted and back on the old stick.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a cool little tool you can use if you Google the Wheel of Life, and it gives you some prompts. I think there's 8 or 7 quadrants in the wheel, and you rate each one of those quadrants out of 10, and it gives you a really beautiful view of your life and where you may be lacking slightly. So those plates as such, each quadrant is its own section: friendships, relationships, family. I don't know, there's 7. Have a look. But that can give you a really awesome overview, because some people have never actually looked at all areas of their life. They focus on 1 or 2 or 3. There's a few more than that. And if we are dropping somewhere, that's a beautiful awareness.
Oh, big time. Now, gang, we don't want to be too serious about this, but there's a couple of stats, right, that business owners need to be aware of, right? So that you understand that, you know, if your business doesn't work out, and they don't work out, right?
Yep.
Understand via these stats that your business isn't the only one that might go under, and there's been a hell of a lot of business owners that have gone under because of COVID and all that sort of stuff, right? There's some stats that Kiani's found around business ownership, particularly in this country, that will hopefully give you a bit of perspective to understand that, you know, just because your business didn't work out doesn't mean that you can't work out as a person.
Correct, absolutely. It doesn't define you. It is an extension of you, and as we know, we can change that at any point in time. But I thought it was pretty friggin' cool to have a look at some of these stats. And there is 2.5 million small businesses in Australia alone.
Shit.
That's a lot.
You know what, though? That's an observation that I made when I first came over from the UK. Because in UK, you get a job.
Yeah.
You get a job. You plug in to the rat race and whatnot. I'd never seen so many people have their own business until I came over to this country. I never thought it really was a thing.
See, again, growing here, I know nothing different.
Oh, it's mental.
Crazy, hey?
Yeah.
Perspective. Now, out of that number of businesses, only 54% of them will last 4 years or more.
Shit, okay.
That's over half of those businesses. Small businesses won't even make it to the 4-year mark.
Wow. So pat on the back if you have, by the way.
Absolutely. And then the scarier fact from that when we get to the 5 and 10-year mark, as little as 8% will survive and grow beyond the 5 to 10-year mark.
8%? And I guess, right, part of the 92% would be people that, feel that their business has run its course. Yeah. Or they'll sell off or whatever, right? So there'll be some businesses in there that will have been done, that would have been sold off on purpose.
Or merged.
100%.
Correct.
But that last stat right there, that 8% of businesses last, beyond the 5 to 10 year mark, should be telling you all that your business is an extension of your life, as Kiani said, but it's not your be all and end all.
That's right.
It's not your be all and end all, and it's absolutely fine to have an end game. When it comes to your business.
Or if you are in a business that has been around for longer than 5 years, take a minute to pat yourself on the back.
Big time.
Because you're in the minority.
Yeah.
You're an absolute minority. And one of the things that we did see out of COVID, and I really, really clung to, was that small business is the way that we are going to rebuild this economy. Mm-hmm. So if you are part of that minority, be freaking proud. Stand up for it. There's a lot of tall poppy syndrome around owning businesses. And I actually had a conversation with someone this morning who his auntie ran a successful business, but she said her advice to him, don't get too big. The bigger you get, the harder it is. And he's like, this woman runs a national business and is successful. Why would she tell me not to do what she's just done? And it's, who knows? Who knows what the reasoning was? But man, encourage your brothers and your sisters, because we're all in this together. And as you said before, there's enough money to go around. Competition needs to get flicked out the door. Support one another.
Yep.
Pat each other on the back. Have a good moment and love what you're doing.
And that's it. And I think that's the really critical piece is if you've lasted more than 5 years and you still love it.
You're on a winning streak.
And you're fucking lucky.
Yep.
You're really, really lucky. Gang. I hope that for you business owners out there, for you and for those of you that are thinking about being a business owner, that might have given you a bit more colour to what your picture could look like. Kiani, I drilled you on that one.
I know you did, didn't you? I'm going to get you back next time.
I really did drill you on that one, and I'm really happy that I did. But I think that you lot will be happy that I did too. But look, on behalf of Kiani, myself, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully that shed a bit of light on things for you, and we will speak to you again next time.
Absolutely. And Andy has mentioned this before, but if there are topics or questions that come up through this, we want to hear it. DM us on Instagram. We're more than happy to share anything and everything. And
it can be anonymous, So I know that some of these topics that people want to talk about, they don't want to talk about because of the fact that they're worried of fear of reprisal, fear of, that tall poppy thing, fear of being judged. Well, there is a distinct lack of said fear in this studio.
We're in a code of silence.
And we would be more, and like I said, if you want to be kept anonymous, that's absolutely fine. But we're more than happy to tackle the elephant in whichever room you may be sitting in.
And we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, big
really
time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, look, absolutely. So please send us a DM, and look, also if you think that this is of value and you think that someone else might find it valuable, please flick it on. It'd be really, really appreciated, and hopefully we can build something of a community that does allow us to all feel more human within our businesses.
Talk about the wins, but also talk about the shit stuff.
Indeed. All right, gang, take care, stay safe, healthy, happy. We'll speak to you again soon.
See ya. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very grateful for your time, and we really hope that we've provided some value.
Follow us on Instagram if you've liked what you've heard, and if you have anything that you want us to talk about, things that might have been bugging you but you've not quite had the bottle to really bring it out into the open, send us a DM and we'll happily bring it to the table.